to the consent agenda for an excused absence due to business obligations. Anybody wish to comment on that? Okay, all in favor of adding that is item 4E, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the item has been added. Any other additions or modifications to tonight's agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda as amended. Further discussion of tonight's agenda? All in favor of the approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda for this evening is approved. We are to our first citizen comment period, and you're able to speak on anything that is on our agenda this evening. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes. So anyone else? Yes, sir. Please step to the microphone and identify yourself for the record. Randy, do you have that timer? Go ahead, sir.
Hello, my name is Jeff Daly, and I'm here to extend some comments concerning the SK resolution that you all are going to go through. I realize that most of you heard the discussion 2 weeks ago, and you've already made your decision, but I thought I'd state the obvious. This is the fourth vote, not the first vote. The first vote, less than 20. It failed. The second time, less than 400. The third time, more than 700. This is the fourth vote. Okay, so it's not going down. It's not gaining support. They're asking for you for the fourth time. Okay, this is the wrong solution. Okay, we've talked about almost 1,700 homes going in McCormick Wood or McCormicksville now. Okay, in 4 years, what are you going to do when you stand up in front of the Taj Mahal out there and say, oh, it's full. It's only for 1,500 students. We have over 1,700 or 1,800, and it didn't fix the overcrowding problem at South Kitsap. Oh, what are we going to do? Ask the voters for another high school out on Lake Flora Road, since that's the way the city is going? If you're having trouble getting through this one, wait till you try to tell the voters that they need a new one out on Lake Flora Road. Okay? The tax increase, yeah, you're right. Maybe not a tax increase, but you're just putting a levy on for 25 years. I'll be dead when that high school is paid off. Okay? But what you've done is you've taken the flexibility to add more levies, and what's going to happen is when they run short, what are we going to do? Hold the taxpayer hostage. McCreary decision, the legislature is backpedaling. 6-year money is disappearing, 4-year, 2-year money, it's all being misunderstood. Okay, they're already reauthorizing the money, and they're also already allowing districts to make up the difference for those that got, quote, shorted. So what's going to happen here after the 30% pay raises that went through to keep everybody happy in South Kitsap? Over 80% of the budget now is for pay and perks in South Kitsap. So who's going to pay for all these crumbling walls they talked about last time? And who's going to pick up the slack when McCreary disappears if the levy is already done? All we're going to do is add more and more things for the taxpayer to pick up. The industry on the corridor isn't coming. Bethel corridor is still kind of blank. And downtown still has lots of holes. I already pay $4,000 in taxes. By the time this thing all gets through and the city puts in their 2%, the county puts in their 2%, the city puts in their 1%, I'm sorry, my taxes are going to be up to $6,000. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Others wish to comment this evening? Yes. If you could just identify yourself for the record.
Hi there, my name's Amy Miller. I'm homeowner in, do you want my street address or just Port Orchard?
If you live in Port Orchard, it's fine.
I don't know where to start on all the misinformation that was in that last comment, but I know that you know the facts of the matter. Those have been presented to you. I know that the lens that you look through when endorsing measures and looking towards the future follow those four things that are over on the board over there. And I would say that supporting the school district in our plans for the future would definitely meet those criteria. So we thank you for your support.
Thank you for your comments. Others wishing to comment? Yes, sir.
My name is Bob Showers, and I've lived in Port Orchard for quite a while. And I work with kids quite a bit. And I really haven't decided whether I'm going to vote for this yay or nay yet. But I do have some concerns with the school board. And I had Amy, I think I'd gotten a hold of Amy or someone had sent them an email about some information I would like to have. And number one, I wanted to know how much of the McCleary decision, how much of a percentage did they get? And my understanding, it was 18%. And out of that 18%, my understanding is it all went to teacher salaries. Now, I came back and I asked them, that 18%, what kind of money is that? What are we talking about? Never got an answer. So I am concerned about the way they've presented this and the way that some of the information has been flowing through.
Thank you for your comment. Others wishing to comment this evening? Okay. Going once, going twice. I'm going to close the public comment period at this point. All right, we are to our consent agenda. Motion to approve?
Motion to approve consent agenda
As amended.
as amended.
And second. And a second from Councilmember Chang. Further discussion of the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the amended consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, consent agenda is approved. We have a presentation this evening. We have some representative from West Sound Treatment Center, and they have about a 10-minute presentation for us this evening, and then open up for questions. So the microphone is yours.
Thank you. My name is Evans Callis, and I'm on the board of directors of West Sound Treatment Center, headquartered here in Port Orchard. Joining me today are Jan Batt and Christina Hernandez, and our Director of Operations, Claire Hickman. And Claire will be talking a little bit about Recovery Month in just a minute. So we want to thank you on behalf of our entire board and management team, as well as our clients, for the proclamation you made regarding Recovery Month. We're a little late in the game because it's September, and we're already deep into September, but thank you for your thoughts. Next year we'll be a little ahead of the game. But we appreciate you passing this resolution to increase the awareness of the scourge of alcohol and drug addiction in our society, and those of us that are fighting every day to remedy the scourge and do what we can to provide safe housing, treatment, and job training programs. I'm going to turn it over to Claire. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gents, and Mr. Mayor. And thank you so much for allowing us a few minutes to discuss recovery. It's, as Mr. Callis mentioned, thank you for the proclamation and putting effort on recovery. As we all know that it's been an issue for alcohol and drugs in our current society and community. So during the month of September, we celebrate the many people in our nation who are recovering from mental health and substance use disorder. We honor those that are helping to make recovery possible, including our agency and other agencies that are doing majority of the work to keep them treated and get the services that they need and assistance. Even with all the work we've done, we still lose lives. And they return back to the disease. According to Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, also known as SAMHSA, 115 people die daily due to overdose in heroin and other opioid medication. And that's just opioids. So think about the other drugs that are in circulation now and alcohol. So addition is a whole is even greater because it doesn't only affect the people that are in recovery or in addiction, it also affects the families that they have, the friends that are affected by them. We recognize that we are in a public health emergency due to opioid use disorder epidemic alone. Recovery Month serves to educate Americans locally and across the nation about the benefits of treatment and recovery, and services promoting 3 topics: prevention works, treatment is effective, and people can and do recover. As the proclamation points out, theme of this year's Recovery Month has been Join the Voices for Recovery, promoting services such as healthcare, housing, employment, education, and social supports, and those who provide care to make recovery possible. I have 2 of my colleagues here, and I wish there was more of the agency representation because we do work endlessly. I mean, every day there's always somebody that we see and their family members that are affected. West Sound is committed to carrying out this message year-round, partnering with other agencies such as Kitsap Recovery Center, Harrison Health Partners, and many other across the peninsula. We are able to bring an array of services to help meet the needs of the individuals in our communities, including homes, education, vocational training, you name it. And we're also using the community's resources to plug our clients in, just so they know. Again, thank you very much for allowing us to speak a few words tonight. And on behalf of the Recovery Month and the agencies helping to improve lives and restore hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, well, and if you haven't had I've had the opportunity to tour the facility. It's in our industrial park a number of times, and they provide, fabulous service to our community, and I'm thankful that we have the organization in our community. So, questions from council members on this evening?
I think the issue of possible providing inpatient treatment services came up at the last time I was here. We are setting out over the next few months for a strategic planning, and we're going to look at that. In the meantime, though, since I was here last, we've opened, to expand our facilities in Port Orchard, we actually opened a facility in Bremerton. So Port Orchard is becoming more of an admin and treatment center, and there's treatment going on in Bremerton as well as our long-established Paulsbo location. So we're looking around for additional services we can provide effectively.
There's definitely a need.
Okay.
I guess the question I have is, because you're located in our industrial center, is transportation an issue for some of your clients?
I believe it is, but Claire?
Majority of our clients do not have vehicles and they rely on the bus, so.
Yeah.
There is a transit stop.
Is there a transit stop out there?
At the entrance, yeah.
Okay.
There's a transit stop close by, but the clients still have to walk up the hill, and we should probably talk to Kitsap Transit. Maybe we can work out something, but transportation's always a barrier for those that can't afford a car, so.
We do provide bus passes.
Okay.
Where is your location in Bremerton, and is it in walking distance of the Foot Ferry?
Unfortunately, I don't believe it is in walking distance of the Foot Ferry. It's up Wheaton Way in
Oh, God, no.
East Bremerton.
That's not in walking distance at all.
Right next, there's a bus
Okay.
stop right there.
Right.
It's easier access for
Okay.
clients.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you for coming this evening. All right, we are to item 6, which is a public hearing on the Bethel Road and Sedgwick Corridor plans. Mr. Bond.
Yes, thank you. Tonight, we have a public hearing on the Bethel Sedgwick Corridor Plan, and this is the final step in a series of public processes that we've held for the last year or so. We're trying to load a PowerPoint, and I'm just going to give you an overview of the presentation that was given at the last, the August 14th council meeting. We're having some technical difficulties. In any event, After our public presentation on August 14th, 2018, we provided public notice. We emailed every participant in the Bethel-Sedgwick corridor process, the people who attended the open house, people who responded to surveys, and then we put, of course, notices in the paper, on Facebook, and I think the word definitely is out there about what is in the plan. In your packet, you should have seen a matrix of the comments that we've received to date, which included a lot from state agencies, I think a few from citizens, but not a terribly long list of comments. And so tonight is the final opportunity for citizens to comment on the plan before we move to finalize it, and we will be incorporating some of the WashDOT and other agency comments that have been received. I think there was one comment that just generally didn't like roundabouts, and I don't believe, unless council wants to revisit that issue, that probably will change. But if there is a change in direction that council wants to see, this is, after you've heard from the public, if you want us to do any more work on this before we finalize it, now is the time to tell us. Also, Elizabeth Wooten from SCJ is here tonight, and she's here to answer any questions that you have, and just to listen to any comments that are received. So I'm just going to walk you through the corridor study real quickly. Yes, this is an abbreviated presentation. When we began the project, we identified the scope of work as being on Bethel from Mile Hill through the Sedgwick intersection, and on Sedgwick from the Bethel intersection to the SR 16 ramps on the east side of the SR 16 bridge. When we did our initial public opinion survey, I think the important takeaway is that Sedgwick is seen by our population as a commuter route primarily, whereas Bethel is seen as a commercial access route as its primary function. As I said, we've been at this since a little over a year ago. We initially did a work study session with the City Council in September to go over our public outreach approach. We had workshops in the late fall, early winter, surveys, and then finally some stakeholder meetings with various agencies, WashDOT, the fire district, transit, etc. So the preferred alternative that we've identified, it really breaks the corridor down into three pieces. There's the Bethel Road North section, which is north of Lund. There is the Bethel Road South section, which is Lund to Sedgwick, and then there's the Sedgwick section, which each of these have their own road profile as a preferred alternative. And the general theme of the plan is wide nodes, narrow roads, meaning that we have capacity constraints at our intersections, and by opening up and making the intersections flow, we can actually get by with a two-lane road profile on the north end of Bethel. It's a center turn lane. On the south side of Bethel, it's a restricted turning movement, which actually improves your overall traffic flow. So the three road profiles are shown here. You've got Bethel Road North, which is a typical section labeled A. You can see the center turn lane, bike lanes, complete street with pedestrian improvements. The Bethel Road South, you see the center median. And of course, the roundabouts at the intersections as indicated on the map, that's where you would make a U-turn. So if you're trying to make a left turn, you go to the next roundabout, make a U-turn and come back, and it's a right in, right out type turning movement. In terms of phasing, looking at where the existing failures are today, and also constructibility, the first phase is really the Blueberry to Salmonberry segment of Bethel, followed by Sedgwick, which is just a capacity issue right now, and then the Bethel-Sedgwick intersection is next, followed by the Salmonberry to Lund, and then the Bethel North is really the least needed of the improvements in terms of prioritization. We have developed cost estimates for the various phases, and it's, of course, Phase 2 is the state highway, and so this is really a legislative agenda type thing, and we very well may look at some options for participating in this project with the state, but we're going to have to get creative with that being a state facility. But the overall project cost for both corridors is $53.7 million. And finally, we have, and Brandy, can you click on the video of flyover. We have the flyover if we want to all watch it one more time before we put the study to rest. I'm going to go full screen on the bottom right there. So this is the 3D model of the corridor starting just to the south of Blueberry and traveling north towards Salmonberry. You'll see when you get to the intersection, you'll see it on the next intersection where the road widens at the intersection to allow for 4 lanes of through traffic. Of course, these buildings aren't there today, but we've looked at theoretically what can occur based on our land use plans and our zoning regulations.
Glad we stopped for those pedestrians.
That's the law. So this is approaching the Salmonberry roundabout, and you'll see the bus stop on the right where the bus can pull out. Vehicles can still get around the bus, but it's actually 2 lanes through the intersection. And then you have on the far side, the 2 lanes zipper back into 1 lane. It's a zipper merge, and that meets our 2040 horizon year for the city's growth. So with that said, did I miss anything, Elizabeth, in terms of the presentation that you'd like to add? Okay. So I would, I guess, open it up for public testimony and then council discussion. Our next step will be to bring a resolution forward accepting the final document at our first meeting in October. And then after that, we're going to have to work to integrate this into our capital facilities plan and our transportation plan as part of a comp plan amendment.
Okay, with that, I will open the public hearing. We're taking comment on the Bethel Road and Sedgwick Road corridor plan. Is anyone wishing to provide comment? Yes. Just identify yourself for the record.
Hi, my name's Penny Pepis, and my family owns a commercial piece of property on Bethel and Piperberry. So what we are trying to figure out is that with no left turn, people with no left median, there's 4 buildings, and people will have to go 2 blocks north to the roundabout, turn around, and come back. So I've been looking at this, and I apologize, none of us live in Port Orchard. I'm sorry, I live in Seattle, but I've been trying to look at this, and part of Lund Road, if I'm right, does have a median, a turn lane, but this part from Lund to Sedgwick does not. It just has a median. And if the city is trying to encourage more commercial growth in that area, which is what the study shows, then we're worried that it will actually dissuade commercial growth because there's no way to get in to our many properties without a left-hand turn lane. So we're against that. We'd like to see a left-hand turn lane, obviously, or a turn lane so that people from both directions can more easily access the property and not have to go blocks out of their way and deal with a roundabout and come back. There's a lot of excess property. We'd be happy to sell it to the city. We've got a big median on our side, if that's the concern. But we're trying to figure out why the median changes from 2 turn lanes or a turn lane to a median just for that stretch of the road. I don't know what the thought process was behind that because it is commercial. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Others wishing to comment, provide testimony? Please step to the microphone. If you could identify yourself for the record.
All right, so my name is Brandon Heineman, travel the road every day. I have kind of an opposing view to providing the left turn access across Bethel and the Piperberry, Blueberry area. The proposed plan is 8 roundabouts, 7 to 8 roundabouts. Yeah. So key purpose, well, a key element of a roundabout is the ability for a change of direction. I feel you could limit the number to 5 by removing the one that's proposed near Ramsey or West Coast Fitness and the Blueberry one, as those seem to only benefit a very small density other than the 100 houses that are being built currently. A couple of blocks to me, living in Port Orchard is in a huge detriment to our population, and continuing a 2-lane road through Salmonberry I think would be more beneficial. You drive through right now, yeah, you have the Tremont project that's kind of restricting traffic and funneling back up Sedgwick, but if you take that as your 2040 vision, I think it's a good estimate. Traffic backs up from Sedgwick past Fred Meyer towards Bethel Valley. And then traffic's backing up, same intersection, down past Blueberry. So you just want to keep adding roundabouts, which they're not really a restriction, but I think it would just mess with the flow. And also the Ramsey Sedgwick roundabout, I believe, it's, unless you're changing, not focusing, but thinking about changing the slope of the road coming up Sedgwick towards Fred Meyer, then you're going to be stopping traffic coming uphill, and that hill's already known to be troublesome when the weather becomes inclement. Just a few of my thoughts on a quick study of the study, but thank you for your time.
Can you say your name again? I missed it.
It's Brandon Heineman.
Okay, thank you.
Others wishing to comment or provide testimony? Okay, with that, I will close the public hearing. Council members, if you want to have any deliberations this evening on the issue? There isn't a roundabout though at Ramsey. There's a new connector road at the top of the hill. Correct.
If I can clarify that point, both Geiger and Ramsey are on, Ramsey is too close to Bethel for a roundabout, and Geiger is too steep of a hill, and so there's a new road proposed at the very top of the hill, about halfway between them, with new access roads that would go to the adjacent property. So there's a little bit more spacing there than what was
I
suggested.
thought that was the case.
Yeah.
So thank you for the clarification. Okay. Next. We can hold our deliberations for Councilmember
Well,
Shea.
When are we going to discuss, for example, the transit item on the matrix about the bikes and the safety of bikes behind the buses? Are we discussing that tonight, or are we discussing that before we pass it in October?
Well, I think tonight would be your opportunity to express
Okay.
a preference. We're still having those discussions with Kitsap Transit, working through their concerns, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're, yeah, we have to make that
Do you
decision.
mind stepping to the microphone, Elizabeth? Okay.
I think,
This is Elizabeth Wooten.
hi.
Consultant.
I think, yeah, we're still trying to figure out if, which design is preferred and if you have any opinions on the matter. This is, I don't know if everyone saw it or just Fred.
Or if you need to put it on the
Yeah.
overhead.
It's a concern that's listed.
Yeah, he asked for the actual sketch that they provided us, so we can put it up there if that makes it better.
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah.
They have it.
So the proposed design was that the bus, when it's pulled over, that there would be ramps allowing bikes to get onto the sidewalk around the bus. But that if there wasn't a bus present, that there would still be the bike lane maintained so that the bikes would not be forced onto the sidewalk at all times. Kitsap Transit proposed that there be a bulb out through the bike lane at the transit stops, and this is only the stops that are on median controlled 1-lane section, so the type B bus stops. And the bulb out would then make it so that bikes would have to go on the sidewalk and or decide to go into the travel lane. So there's no, the standards on this are not, there's still room for deciding. And if you guys have ideas or thoughts about what you would prefer or concerns about either design, we'd love to hear them.
So Transit is asking for bulb outs then, which would be a physical barrier that would prevent a bicyclist from traveling the bike lane. So then they would either need to jump into the traffic lane or forced to exit out into the pedestrian travel area.
Yeah, go onto the wider sidewalk, but yes, the sidewalk. Their concern is that the buses will pull over and there will be still like enough room for a car to sneak by them while they're stopped.
Aren't they also concerned about the bike going to the left of the parked bus?
Yeah, so that's why we propose that you have the wraparound there if the bus is parked there. But the thinking being that if the bus was not parked there, which is the majority of the time, you weren't asking bikes to go out of their way or have conflicts with either vehicles or pets.
Couldn't the bus just not pull over as far?
They could unless they had to unload a ramp.
Yes, and someone with mobility.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this was posed to us as a idea, so we can leave it as an open question. And this is a design detail. We're at concept level right now. So if we aren't comfortable making a decision before October 5th or 9th,
We could just put both alternatives in there. Say A and B.
to be decided.
When we go to actually construct it, then we would need to make a design decision at that point, because you're right, this is a concept level.
Yeah, this is getting nitty gritty.
Yes, Councilmember Ashby?
Elizabeth, would you please clarify the flow of traffic from Salmonberry south to Bethel with the medium in there? Because I know I have been to presentations, not that you put on, but over in Tacoma, by a consultant who highly recommended that and indicated that it was safer for pedestrians. It actually made ingress, egress out of the commercial districts easier. But I was hoping that you could speak to it because we did have comments about
Concern,
that.
yeah. So especially in areas where there is higher commercial and higher trip generating uses. So the southern end of Bethel, we expect to have higher trip generating commercial uses than the northern end. There's a lot more potential and larger parcels and all those kind of things. The north end is constrained and by the wetlands and other roadways and other elements. So in that southern section, the idea is that if there are many people trying to make left turns on the corridor, either out of the properties or into the properties, it just adds an element of conflict. It makes it really hard to get onto the corridor, which is a big challenge, but it also makes it so that there's more friction in the through traffic, and we don't really know until you have the specific use and the specific development. You don't know how many trips you need to accommodate, and there's a chance if you provide a left turn lane. And the center left turn lane is just not going to be enough to process all of the people who need to access that property in a timely, efficient manner, because they'll have to wait for the gap and all these things. But if you provide roundabouts at the major intersections, then it keeps traffic flowing, and it's almost making a right turn. Your only impediment is pedestrians. It's much easier to make a right turn. It's usually not a big delay on the traffic flow. So that was our thinking in having a median in that section of the corridor.
Can we see the visual of Bethel again? I personally kind of like roundabouts, but I've heard from many people who are concerned about having 5 roundabouts where there are none. And I'm wondering if we might consider leaving in intersections at Lund and Sedgwick to be the last to be replaced as roundabouts.
So I think the issue there is that you have to have those bookend U-turn opportunities because you can't have a center median without the opportunity to make the U-turn at the end of the corridor. And so those actually allow you to get by with the 2-lane road instead of going to a 4-lane road, which is going to add probably $20 million in project cost. So this really allows a 2-lane road to serve the corridor where otherwise a 4-lane road would likely be required.
Yeah, and I would think it's going to be more than 20,000 because you're purchasing a lot more right of way, a lot more drainage. But I think it's important to point out that full movement from a commercial property is what you want. You want full movement. When you have the bookend roundabouts, you have full movement, and you actually have safer full movement. When we were looking at the Tremont corridor, you could have somebody that's going into a turn lane and waiting for a gap. Because you gotta remember, with roundabouts too, you have less gaps. So you don't have those natural gaps that lights create. You could sit in a left turn lane for a very long time, whereas if you just went up the 2 blocks and turned and came back, it's a much safer movement. And so, I think it's important that commercial developers realize that just because we have a median and we have bookend roundabouts, you still have full movement in and out of the property. It's just, you just got to change your mind around to, instead of thinking it is, I'm being restricted for a left in or out, you have full movement.
And
You actually have safer full movement.
And the way the phasing worked, which is what Nick was getting to, is that we would not propose a median where there's not roundabouts on either end. So you always would be having the full access based on how it was phased.
If I remember correctly, phase 1 was Blueberry to Salmonberry.
Yes.
And you could have if you built the 2 roundabouts, then you could have median
In between
that
those.
section.
Exactly, yeah. That's what we were showing in the
Yeah,
diagram.
and that was about 16 million.
Yes.
Only.
But that's not including a little, gonna have to add a tiny, not tiny, but Ramsey Road improving Ramsey Road to have access during construction and as well as other circulation.
But it's possible to probably even phase that even farther. It could be a roundabout, and then a third project within that phase 1 that is the center median. And now we're in just minuscule $5 million budgets.
Yes.
All right. Other questions for Elizabeth?
I would just say I'm comfortable with the access management where we didn't want every property to have its own driveway in and out like Wheaton Way. I mean, the thing that I remember hearing from the first Bethel plan was that nobody wanted it to look like Wheaton Way, which is sprawl, which is driveway after driveway after driveway, and it's a nightmare. So this is more streamlined. I can see that it's safer. I also know people who say they're going to take Jackson because there's too many roundabouts, but I think people will get used to it eventually.
Yeah, there's a learning curve with roundabouts, but the truth is you usually aren't sitting in a delay, especially off-peak. Whereas if it's off-peak and it's a signal, you might get stuck and you're going to be waiting a minute and a half no matter what you want to do. And if in a roundabout, you usually can get through much faster.
I think we're seeing it firsthand at our Tremont roundabout, even with the detours on it. It's moving traffic phenomenally. Councilmember Ashby?
No, I would just say that I believe we're anticipating more mixed use in that area, and I believe we're anticipating more pedestrians in that area. And so it's important for this plan to accommodate their safe travel also. And I think I think the 2 lanes with the medium and the roundabouts affects that much easier.
Yeah, that's a good point, because driveways, if you had left turn ability, not only does the car have to pay attention to the oncoming traffic, it has to pay attention to the pedestrians trying to cross the sidewalk in front of the driveway. So they're safe.
What phase was Bethel Lund? Do you remember what?
4?
What it was?
4 or 5? 4. Oh yeah, it's 4.
4. I'm just curious to see kind of to that point when we get these 2 roundabouts open on Lund, we could be moving a lot of cars up to that intersection.
Yeah.
Right, like we
Yeah.
never have before, and so it'll be interesting to see if that phasing may change priority once
And
those open
yeah.
and we see that run.
I think that it can be revisited too, as traffic patterns change. But, I mean, the Tremont project was taken into an account in the model. I don't know if they were roundabouts or not. I'd have to look into it.
A development project too could be a driver too, that
Yeah.
we don't
Right, exactly.
see that something coming that,
The phases aren't set in stone.
yeah.
They can change.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you.
Other comments, questions? Okay, we're going to move on. We are to our business items this evening. And the first is item 7A, adoption of a resolution repealing resolution number 30-17, and establishing fee schedules for the Departments of Community Development and Public Works. Mr. Bond.
Yes, thank you. So this item was presented, well, we've discussed it at a couple of previous work study meetings, and we had a public hearing on August 21st, 2018, at which we received no testimony on the proposed fee resolution update. The big changes here is that we are adopting the most recent building valuation table, which is the formula that calculates square footage values for different types of construction that feed into our building permit fee structure. We are also updating Table 1 in the appendix, and that table is actually the formula for calculating building permit fees. And the reason that we are updating this is that we learned through the county courthouse study that our fees were extremely low when it came to projects in excess of $1 million in valuation. And those are projects that typically we would need to hire a consultant to do inspection and plan review on behalf of the city because of their size and the amount of time that it takes to inspect one of those buildings, as we only have a single inspector. So on the high end of the scale, we compared various cities and increased our building permit formula so that we would ensure that we brought in enough revenue to actually pay a consultant to do that work. In addition, the resolution clarifies refund policies related to the technology fees, adopts mailing fees for large plan sets and permit approval packages, and addresses the rounding of area calculations and valuations throughout the fee resolution. So the staff recommendation tonight is to adopt the fee resolution update. And I want to note that the effective date has been changed from the previous version. It will now be effective October 15th instead of October 1st, just so that we can implement this in our permitting software.
Any questions for Mr. Bond? Councilmember Ashby?
Yes, I move to adopt a resolution repealing Resolution 030-17 and establishing fee schedules for the Departments of Community Development and Public Works as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, you'll be voting on on a resolution repealing Resolution 30-17 and establishing fees for the Department of Community Development and Public Works. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We are to item 7B, adoption of a resolution supporting South Kitsap School District, number 402, levy and bond ballot measures. Mr. Rosa Pepe, would you like to introduce yourself?
I believe I need to recluse myself.
Okay, thank you. We'll come get you. All right. Anyone have any additional comments or questions? Entertain a motion, if not.
Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution supporting South Kitsap School District number 402, proposition number 1, bond to build second high school, and proposition number 2, capital projects levy to address urgent safety and security, facility projects, and technology needs at all schools.
Second.
A motion and a second. And if we have a split vote, I get to vote, I think, tonight. All right, any further comments?
I would just like to thank the school district for their ongoing support of getting out into the community and trying to be as transparent as they possibly can and sharing everybody kind of the facts behind this, and it is difficult. So I appreciate all of the efforts of being present to everybody, and really this is a major undertaking for our community, a very important undertaking for our community, and I think your stewardship is definitely appreciated.
Other comments?
I also appreciate the fact that we have two different issues to vote on, the bond for the school and then the capital levies project. I'm pleased that it was presented to the public that way. And I also know that our community is only as strong as our school system. And I commend all of you for the work you do every day for our children, and thank you.
Other comments?
I guess the only thing I would say that's already been said, but I will thank the board and the supporters for putting it on a general election and for having a more open campaign this time. I think the last one was a little too quiet. I think we heard the stealth campaign. So I'm glad that this is not a stealth campaign, and I commend you for that.
Last man standing.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that we need this second school. On the other hand, I know that there are citizens that really are concerned about being able to afford the tax, even though it was high this year, and you're not raising it. You made that point. But it's great to have it on the ballot for everyone to decide, and that's what we're doing. So thank you for your efforts and for all of the work you put into educating everyone about what's in this. Truly, we need it as a community.
With that, you'll be voting on a resolution supporting the South Kitsap School District number 402, their levy and bond measures. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Get Mr. Rosapepe? Okay, we're moving on to item 7C, adoption of a resolution approving a contract with Olson Brothers Provac LLC for stormwater catch basin and pipe cleaning maintenance. Mr. Dorsey.
Thank you, Your Honor, council members. On August 31st, 2018, the city established a list of qualified contractors from the 2018 MRSC Small Works roster, see Resolution Exhibit A attached, for main category storm drainage facility construction, repair, and maintenance, and a subcategory of catch basin cleaning, vectoring, jet rodding, to perform this year's annual stormwater catch basin and pipe maintenance. On August 31st, 2018, and pursuant to Resolution Number 00915, Section 4, Limited Public Works Process, the city's Public Works Department emailed a request for proposal for the 2018 stormwater catch basin and pipe maintenance from all MRSC Small Works roster contractors. 5 bids were received, which included applicable tax, labor, equipment, materials, and fees, were received prior to the September 14th, 2018 proposal deadline. We had a range from $69,510 to $265,582. So on September 19th, 2018, the city's Public Works Department staff completed the MRSC mandatory bidder responsibility checklist and determined that Olson Brothers Provac bid of $69,510.33 was the lowest qualified bid. Public Works Department has confirmed that the bidding requirements for Public Works has been followed. The one sticking point is that we had $40,000 that was initially budgeted for this task in the 2018 budget. The number of city-owned catch basins and stormwater pipes that require maintenance has increased significantly in recent years. This increase is due to annexation, development, and significant improvements to the city's mapping and features inventory program, which has identified several catch basins that were previously not listed. And I'd also like to add, we're also feeling the effects of economy right now. So, before I go to the recommendation, just again on the fiscal impact, we will be needing, a budget amendment to pass this because it is a 75% increase over what we had budgeted.
Which is from the stormwater
Utility.
Which is healthy.
I find that we do have money. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt resolution number 04518, thereby approving contract number C 07318 with Olson Brothers Provac for the 2018 stormwater catch basin and pipe maintenance contract in the amount not to exceed $69,510.33 for stormwater catch basin and pipe maintenance, with the contract term beginning October 1st, 2018 and ending December 31st, 2018. And this is a stormwater permit compliance issue.
Really?
I move to adopt a resolution approving a contract with Olson Brothers Provac for the 2018 stormwater catch basin and pipe maintenance contract in the amount not to exceed $69,510.33.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Councilmember Rosapepe?
Mark, just a quick question. And it's really kind of not on the subject to a degree, but that seems like an awful large spread
Yes.
of
It
bids.
is.
And I was just curious as, what you thought was driving it, because, personally, I'd see the low one and go, oh my God, what are we missing?
Well, they have a term in the UK called taking the mickey. It means that they're really not serious. I don't know if somebody was just making a point that maybe it's the time of the year that we finally got this out and the timeline that we established. But a couple of those bids, I think they were taking the mickey.
$200,000.
Right.
And when I get to my mayor's report, I'll talk a little bit about Echo Court, and it was similar.
Did we
results.
have we done business with Olson Brothers before?
Pardon?
Have we done business with Olson
Yeah,
Brothers before?
they did it last year.
Oh, okay.
Right. So,
Sorry.
Olson's done it.
Oh, that was going to be my question, so thank you for asking.
Yeah, they've done it a few years and they've done good work. The issue here is we keep finding more catch basins. So,
The price goes up. Yep. And we keep adding catch basins.
and then we're adding catch basins, yes.
Other questions for Mr. Dorsey? We have a motion and a second on the floor for the adoption of a resolution approving a contract with Olson Brothers Provac LLC for stormwater catch basin and pipe maintenance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. So we are to item D, approval of amended change order number 3 to contract number 03717 with Active Construction for the Tremont Widening Project. Mr. Dorsey.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. So this is the amendment to change order 3. So on June 26, 2018, the Port Orchard City Council authorized the mayor to execute change order number 3 to contract C03717 with Active Construction for the Tremont project in the amount not to exceed $116,889.50. And this was for the relocation of the WashDOT reviewed, approved SR16 Tremont interchange illumination power meter base, with the provision that once the work was complete, a corrected change order number 3 or 3A would be brought back to council for final ratification. And as a reminder, this was the when the state built the interchange in the late 70s, early 80s, and
Early 70s.
they moved the road down, the power base was way up at Canyon Court, and nobody knew that until we did the project. So please note, upon completion of the above referenced work and the final inspection by Department of Transportation, additional items were required by WashDOT. In general summary, the current value of all change orders to date total $812,528.92, or we're now up at 81.3% of the contingency for the project. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize the mayor to execute the amended change order number 3 with Active Construction in the amount not to exceed now $141,592.77.
Councilmember Ashby?
I'll do it. I move to approve amended change order number 3 with Active Construction Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $141,592.77.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions for Mr. Dorsey? Mr.
I
Shane?
just want to comment that although I'm a DOT employee, this is not a contract or change order with DOT, so I would not materially benefit in any way. However, for appearance of fairness, if anyone feels that I would be biased, I have no problem with recusing myself.
Mr. Chang to recuse himself? Okay.
And I do want to point out, if you look at the change order on the next sheet, you'll see that at this point, we're still waiting for change order 2A, which I'm hoping will be in October. That one will have a $10,000 savings. We're finally getting final numbers. So we will see a $10,000 credit on that. I'd mentioned at the last meeting, I hope they were gonna, the 25 up was gonna balance with the 25 down, but that was wishful thinking. But we will see a credit on that one.
Motion and second. Other questions for Mr. Dorsey? Okay, you'll be voting on, that's my agenda. Approval of amended change order number 3 to contract number 037-17 with active construction for the Tremont widening project. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we are on to our last business item, which isn't in your packet. Probably, let's see, it was on August 28th. We received a letter from Kitsap County.
29.
August 29, you're correct, from Kitsap County, requesting us to assist in funding the debt repayment for the Norm Dix Conference Center and the Harborside condominiums. And I drafted a letter, I brought it to the Finance Committee, and with some assistance from the Finance Committee, you have the draft before you. If you'd like, I could read it into the record so that everybody hears it and knows what it says. So it's dated September 26, 2018 to Kitsap County Commissioners from the City of Port Orchard, subject Housing Kitsap funding request. This memo is in response to your August 28, 2018 request of the City of Port Orchard to consider contributing $300,000 debt service payment for the Norm Dix Government Center until 2028, when the Harborside condominium debt would be paid off. We appreciate the effort that Kitsap County staff put forth to memorialize the events that led up to Kitsap County obtaining general obligation bonds to refinance the debt of Housing Kitsap, debt that Housing Kitsap County had previously guaranteed. While the City of Port Orchard was at that time and still is a member of the Housing Authority, it did not provide a guarantee of the debt. These projects, both of which are in the City of Bremerton, were constructed to stimulate economic activity. No one foresaw the severe economic downturn that was just around the corner. As we all know, the subsequent collapse of the housing market led to the failure of the Harborside condominium project. Although the collapse of the housing market was a tragic event, the Harborside condominiums did provide economic stimulants to downtown Bremerton. This project currently provides property taxes to Kitsap County and the City of Bremerton. In contrast, this project provides no direct benefit or revenue to the City of Port Orchard. The Housing Authority should consider other funding alternatives by looking into Kitsap County should consider funding other funding alternatives by looking into recently enacted House Bills 2578 and 2263. These solutions should only be enacted to address the current housing crisis and not used to satisfy the debts of the past. By providing Housing Kitsap the funding they need to satisfy their mission, the Housing Authority could generate the project development fees necessary to repay the county's debt over time. In closing, based on the information above, the City of Port Orchard respectfully denies Kitsap County's request for payment related to the Norm Dix Government Center and the Harborside condominium projects. Comments?
This is the final version, just a couple little typos. The 300,000 is spelled out in the first paragraph as missing a zero.
You're correct.
And then the very last sentence, right after the word, based on the information above, I think we're missing a comma there.
Okay.
I have a question whether it's declines or denies.
I would
It's-
prefer declines,
Yeah,
actually.
Okay.
If, you know,
Lines? Okay.
It
Yeah.
sounds a little better than denies. I just wanted to clarify, and I asked for the original letter because it was quite interesting. In the original letter, they actually did not spell out NDGC, and I'm glad that your letter did, because I remember thinking, what the heck is the Norm Dix Government Center? Is this 300,000 payment when they say until 2028? I, for some reason, thought they were asking for 300,000 every year until 2028.
They are. And
So they're asking for $1 million over the next 10 years is what they're
Correct.
asking, not just 300,000.
Yes.
Okay,
They're asking for 300,000 from the three
every year for the next 10
cities.
years.
So they're asking for, doesn't spell it out in the
Okay.
letter. They just asked for 300,000. I'm confident Paulsbo is generating a similar letter in conversations with their mayor. Bainbridge Island has invited the county commissioners out to their council meeting next week to discuss the issue.
That should be fun.
that's what I was thinking.
Their coffers might be fuller than ours. But I think, capture it pretty well. I don't see the benefit to us. there is a problem regarding affordable housing. Housing Kitsap currently, because of the amount of debt, cannot perform its mission. And we need to look at the agency differently than we currently are, and the debt. The county has to, there's a very large issue here. And I'm currently the board chair, and we're working very hard as a board to try to figure out what the best path forward is.
It sounds like they, and I'm not sure if it's the county or Housing Kitsap, were trying to sell off assets to lower their debt. They pointed out that 21% of their budget or portfolio is within the city limits of Port Orchard. Is that jeopardized, do you think?
No, many of those properties are part of various, they aren't affordable, they're subsidized housing, which have restrictions to them. The agency is in the process, particularly one of the properties here in Port Orchard, to change the type of restriction that it has on it, but it won't affect the residents. It'll actually just give the agency and the residents more flexibility with their housing vouchers. They won't be restricted just to that property. I think it's a very healthy move for the organization, and it's good for the tenants. But yeah, they do have a large, 21% of the properties that are held currently in the portfolio are in South Kitsap or Port Orchard. Not just in Port Orchard, in South Kitsap.
Well, they said 20% of the city, and they have more probably in South Kitsap, but
Yeah.
it's funny, that is 21%, which is less than a third of what their ask is. I didn't want to equate anything there, but I just wanted to make sure that these properties that they have in the city of Port Orchard wouldn't be, I don't know the word.
If the housing authority fails, those properties are still, it's just a complicated issue. It's a
Okay,
very
but
complicated.
I think what Councilman Chang's
Just
trying to
trying to
get
ask.
to is the 4 projects that are within the city of Port Orchard. Now, those, as I understand it, are affordable housing or subsidized housing
Yes.
projects. They truly satisfy the mission of Housing Kitsap.
Correct.
Okay, but
They are not part of this
They
debt.
are not obligated in any way by the debt that we're being asked to service.
Correct. That is.
They're
that-
not in jeopardy.
Okay.
They're not in jeopardy. Right, and I think that the entire issue can become, I don't know if emotional is the word I want to use, but it can be a passionate issue for people. And as I understand it, Housing Kitsap's mission is to provide affordable housing for those that,
And subsidized, it's affordable and subsidized
and
housing.
subsidized housing, correct. The condominiums the Harborside condominiums that the county has taken the debt on for, and the Norm Dix Center, neither one of those provide affordable subsidized housing. So to me, they're off the mission. And so it would be very hard for me to task our citizens to contribute to something that was off mission to start with.
Very good point.
Very nicely put, very nicely and diplomatically
nicely
put.
put.
I would just add that with those assets, not even being in the authority of this, they're separate. And it's not that I'm bashing Bremerton, but it's like we're propping up something and they have their own housing authority. So it's a complex and very unsatisfactory situation.
There were some poor decisions made that led up to this, and then the economic downturn. you know,
Emphasized it.
Yeah, that's correct.
And no one who made it is still around.
So Mayor, do you need a motion, or do we, any
Well,
action on this?
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a motion for me to send this letter, and then we've identified the 3 corrections that we will make tomorrow and get this letter out, if you wouldn't. Councilmember Lucarelli?
I move that we send this letter that presented by Mayor Putansu to the Kitsap County Commissioners regarding the Housing Kitsap funding request.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? And that is with the 3 corrections identified.
Yes.
Okay. That All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, I will get that done tomorrow. So we are to our council committee reports. Let's see here. Finance Committee met last week.
What happened to the report of the mayor?
That'll come right after the,
Sorry.
after the committee reports. And either were the Finance Committee members, we met last week, didn't we? Or the week before?
We met before our last meeting, didn't we? John gave a report at our last meeting.
I'm sorry, I wasn't here.
Oh, that's right.
Shame on me. I'm catching up. So, all right, we will move on to the Economic Development Tourism Committee. Have you met since our last meeting?
And we have not met since our last meeting either. We will be meeting October 8th. And it's my understanding that Chris Piercy from the county will be bringing back answers to some of our questions for the single plastic bag ordinance, so.
And I saw Bremerton was deliberating it according to the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some similar comments and questions that we did.
There will be other things on our agenda, but that, if anyone is interested in that particular issue, Chris Piercy will be here again.
All right. Utility Committee.
Yes, we did meet. We met September 17th, and we had an update on the Foster Pilot Project participation, and that is the water resource management for the best ecological benefits. And it was just a basic overview, nothing too new, but Thomas Hunter is involved with that and doing a very excellent job. We also talked about the 2019-2020 storm CIP draft, listing the projects, the costs, and if known, the priority levels, with the highest, I believe, being the Annapolis Creek culvert replacement. Is that correct? At about 4.5 million? Well, ish. We always say ish for anything to do with utilities. Well, number 9 update. There is a letter that has gone out, errors and omissions to PACE. We hope to recoup some of those costs for the errors that were done in the past. And when is that going to be done again? Well, number 9.
At the end of the year, I think.
Yeah, it's moving
Yeah,
along.
it won't be online till February.
February.
We've got a startup period. So we'll be finishing up at the end of the year, first part of next year, and then the startup period. So I'd say February, it'll be actually online and functioning.
Okay, and then an update on the McCormick Pump Station number 1 with construction starting soon on that. Yes.
Yep. We've got 100% plans on that. We're reviewing them, and as soon as we approve them, they're eager to get underway because they're still running those expensive pumps,
Yes, they are.
bypass pumps.
And that's pretty much it. Next meeting is October 15th, and that's here at City Hall, 9:30 a.m.
Sewer Advisory?
Sewer Advisory, the next meeting, although it's listed the 10th, would you double check on my agenda? It was October 17th for the next meeting. Anybody? No, I don't have your minutes. I didn't see the minutes, but okay.
I don't have them either.
I don't have the minutes.
Okay.
But on the agenda, I had October 17th listing, so could we check on that date? Sewer Advisory? And that's going to be here at City Hall.
Jay's flipping through his book right now.
Okay.
While he's doing that, we'll come back and.
It's on our agenda, Jay.
Okay.
I actually have that.
Right.
Okay, so pretty much the main focus of that meeting, the most important part, was the change of plant manager position has now gone to the general manager is Randy Screws, who was there before as the wastewater treatment plant manager. And a new hire is Marty Grobel, which we all were aware of because of that issue coming back to us. Okay, we'll clarify that next date. Next, land use is next.
Yep. Okay. And land use, we met this week. Okay.
I'm closer.
Great, take it.
Right.
There were just 2 items on the agenda yesterday. The first was with Colleen Miko, M-I-K-O, with the Master Gardeners, and she showed us a neat slideshow showing us some of the demo gardens in other parts of the county. I think we were salivating over having one in Port Orchard, but we could not quite pinpoint a location. Some wanted something a little more centrally located, like downtown. She felt that nothing downtown had suitable parking, so it's going to be a discussion point. She did think that there would be room in the new McCormick Park. And there's a specific part that she looked at with one of the planners, so that sort of put a pall on that. The second,
Both of the locations really have inadequate parking. The suitable locations that have enough sunlight, Clayton Park or
Powers
McCormick
Park.
Village Park. You know, I think we all agree that we're gonna be underparked at a McCormick Village Park in the summertime. And to add another amenity out there would be, you know, not a
I
good
think we'll
decision at
have
this time.
discussions about it, because I didn't agree with what she wanted, but I'm not sure any of us did. The second item was Nick had some zoning updates. I don't think we had any changes.
No, not really. There's one little question, but no.
Scott provided some comment and
Yeah.
had a couple of questions.
Yeah.
And then the third item was the mayor brought up one about the design review board.
Yeah, and I
And the
think we
makeup.
resolved that we can work with what we've got, so. Sorry I bothered you with it. Sometimes you're a useful sounding board, though. Okay, that's land use lodging tax advisory.
This Thursday, still
right.
on.
Okay, we're counting on you.
Yeah.
Festival of Chimes and Lights, you got something on a stick there.
I do. So we have been putting these in the planters that have been reserved. Thank you very much, staff. They really look pretty cool. I put them out there today, and I think we've sold probably about 15 or so to date, although they're coming in still. This is the week for the deadline, though, for the brochure. So in order to be listed, all of those the sponsorships have to take place this week, although they'll continue to be sold after this week. We're doing quite well. There's quite a lot of interest. We have secured with Jerry Reed Fraser firs for a good price, and those are the trees that last very long and have minimal needle drop. So I'm really excited about that. The main concern is that this is the Festival of Chimes and Lights, and there are no chimes. So there's no lights.
There's no lights, we have chimes.
We have chimes, but they don't work very well.
My understanding is that Dennis, they did a test run, and he's gonna be able to manually be in the clock tower, and there's a 90% chance that they're gonna work.
90% chance of chimes. Okay, so we'll probably have a backup with our sound guy too, just in case.
I think that was you and Jerry were gonna start singing, right?
Well, we're
Done
going
that in the past.
But the chimes are going to be fixed, right? Sometime in the next.
It's our system is really antiquated.
I know,
It's
old.
$15,000 to replace it.
We're going to have a fundraiser for the chimes. But anyway, we'll have a wonderful event December 1st, and thank you, Council, for donating for a tree. We haven't determined the location of ours yet, but we're waiting to see how many there are. Bill and I were down there this week looking at plugins. So the next meeting, October 15th, 3:30 here at City Hall.
If you ever want to go for a tour up in the clock tower, there's this box. It's about this big, and that is what your music on, and it's little encoded little chips. It's really interesting. Your phone has way more power than
It was
20 years ago.
ago's technology.
Really old technology. It's
really old.
pre-MP3.
Yeah, it's pre-M. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
So it always makes you typically it's made my list the last couple budgets, and we just can't get there. There's other priorities than the chimes. So outside agency, I was at the Housing Kitsap Board today. I attended there's nothing really exciting to report from that. We had KRCC Executive Board.
Right, what I want to say for KRCC is our legislative reception is November 29th. And it is at the Clearwater Convention area. I'm not sure of the time. It might be a 6 o'clock start.
Sounds about right.
Something in there, yeah.
And other outside, AWC regional meeting is being hosted, which is the district that I represent now. And it's here, we're hosting it here in Port Orchard, October 4th. The clerk's office needs, she's heard from 3 of you. We'd love to see a good representation from Port Orchard there, since it's here in Port Orchard at McCormick Woods.
What time is that at?
5:45 to 8 p.m. And that's all I have for the outside agencies. Mayor's report. Noah and I, a couple weeks ago, went to lunch with Randy Screws and Jerry Lumberg just to try to get us off on the right foot with the new general manager over at West Sound Utility. It was a very interesting meeting. We talked about the utility tax because remember, they represent, I would say, about a third of their district is city residents. Our city's residents, our citizens pay, that are our customers, pay a utility tax. But if you're a West Sound utility customer, you don't. And they were amenable to a utility tax. And as they've dug into this deeper, their software is incapable of separating the two systems. And we talked, and what we made them aware too is they're on the same accounting software that we're on, that us and many other cities are stepping away from because it's no longer being supported. And they didn't seem to know that. So at some point, I think that's a possibility that we correct that inequity, but they don't have, there just physically isn't they don't have the means to differentiate our customers from their customers, so, which is problematic.
Do you have any idea what kind of revenue that would be?
We don't, they're
No
unable
way of
to.
knowing?
Yeah, I mean, we talked some big picture items that, potentially something of the sorts of a overarching B&O tax, something equivalent to a B&O tax on their overall utility. That could be a possibility. Their customers that aren't in the city, though, that could be a tough sell for their commissioners. There'll be more conversation about that, but I think it was a very good meeting. It was important that we sat down and talked and discussed issues because they are our partner in the sewer treatment plant, and we do have some interties and the ability to help each other out in an emergency. So if you haven't noticed this out in this without the city, all kinds of folks have extra stuff out on the curb because it's fall cleanup. So I should have announced that last week, but we didn't have a council meeting. So this is put extra items out this week, and you don't get charged for it. Public Works is out there working hard with equipment to pick that stuff up. I went out with Janine a week and a half ago, and we toured the construction site, took pictures at the McCormick Village Park. Wow, it's really impressive. And Chris Henry's, if you've caught the Beat Blast thing that I think it's Josh does over in Bremerton, they're gonna do something similar over here in Port Orchard. Her and I are gonna do it, and I'm gonna take her out to McCormick Village Park for a sneak preview in October. So I think we'll be cutting a ribbon out there. I hope by around Thanksgiving. Hopefully it won't be too wet, but we'll bring our umbrellas. It's really, the bridges are on site. It's really coming together nice. It's just another, the construction environment and the bid environment. We went out to bid on Echo Court, and the price per ton we used was the estimates we have for Tremont, which should be very robust since they're it's a federalized project and Echo Court wouldn't be. We'd be just doing it internally. Our engineer's estimate was $40,000. The low bid was $60,000. The high bid was $239,000. So we have disqualified all the bids, and we'll try to pull off some paving next year. But it's just the bid environment. Everybody is with the strike. All the paving equipment out there is committed everywhere. Yeah, we just don't want to pave. So what we're doing with the design. So Mark is still working on those quotes for designs for the Sedgwick, Sydney, and the Lippert roads, because we didn't have the capacity or the expertise in-house to design those, and we'll make those estimates part of the biennial budget process versus trying to award them before the end of the year. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. And we're still working on the loan agreement that from the state on for the Marina Pump Station, and we should have those documents in November, and I think before the end of the year, you'll see those. But we've awarded that contract, and we've got these other 2 pump stations, one about ready to be constructed, the other is in design, and we need to have some surveying done and some hydraulic analysis done ahead of the design work down here. So we've confirmed that those expenditures are reimbursable, and I worked with NOAA to authorize $80,000 current sewer money to get the work going while we continue to finalize those documents for the state for the loan agreement that we for 4.2 or 4.2 million dollars is the amount. And the reason Mark gets fuzzy because until we have it designed and and you can see what engineers' estimates are right now, and so hopefully the construction environment will calm down a little bit by the time it's going to take us a year to design this thing. So hopefully the bid environment's going to be a little better because it's crazy out there. I attended the Mayor's Exchange in Walla Walla. It was a great event. We did a walking tour of downtown, and they were talking. It was interesting. We're talking about parking in downtown, and so we got 20 mayors out on the sidewalk, and the mayor of Walla Walla giving a tour, and it was confirmed with 20 mayors right there. Everybody thinks there's not enough parking in their downtown, and everybody wants parking in front of their doorstep. I mean, to the person, everybody, we were all chuckling about it a bit, that it's a universal complaint in every one of our cities. We had an economist give us an economic forecast, and his outlook is that we're about to reach an economic plateau. We're not in 2019. We probably won't see the growth economically that we've seen in the last few years, and we should be preparing for a plateau of the economy. Had a presentation on our national freight transportation system, and it's really no different than our state highways or our local infrastructure. It's been ignored for too long, and there's some serious constraints in it, in our rail network and the freight corridors. And so one of the things that came out of our retreat, and then I went to the ADBC board retreat after the Mayor's Exchange. It was in the same city, and that was for 2 days. And one of the things we agreed to do, that we would do some outreach to the cities we represent. And the district I represent is basically 5 counties from out to the Pacific Coast and down to Ocean Shores. And my wife and I had an opportunity this weekend to go to Ocean Shores. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to act on what I said I was going to. So I, when I first got elected, sent everyone in the district a broadcast email. And so I had somebody from Ocean Shores say, when you're in the area, stop by. So I called her, went to lunch with her this weekend. And one of the things from this Mayor's Exchange, and it was really hammered home this weekend, what a collegial group we have. And I know we think we have we do have challenges in our community, but when I talk to other mayors and I sit down with others, we really have it pretty good. And we have challenges, every community does, but ours aren't probably as big as some of the other places that when I talk to folks and sit down with them. And that's all I have. So I guess thank you to staff and for you for it made me, I guess, appreciate what we have a bit more. So with that, we are to department heads. Mr.
Yeah,
Corson?
I've got 3 quick things. So we do have a solid applicant finally for the engineer EIT. So based on this person's resume and skill set, there's a very good chance that those designs we were talking about we can do in-house. Now that'll lead to a different conversation, which at some point I think we really need to get an on-call surveyor, on-call geologist, or geological engineer, so that we can get the base information much cheaper, but then do our own design. So that's pretty good news.
He's kidding
Fingers
because we've
crossed.
got somebody to interview, but we haven't even interviewed him yet. So.
No, but I think we're going to.
He's watching, Mark, so careful.
Well,
here.
we're interviewing on Thursday, so fingers crossed that we finally found somebody. The other thing is Bay Street pedestrian pathway. You'll see contractor back out there Monday, so that'll be good news. And
Telcom was out there today moving the phone lines off the pole.
right, so yeah, so they'll be out next week, and we're still hoping for by the end of October everything done, other than the lights. I think those don't show up until November. So, and then the last piece is, so I'll be out of country until starting tomorrow morning, until back at work on October 8th. But Thomas and Mike and Cindy, if you have any issues, please reach out to them. And Nick. Nick can feel pretty much everything.
Do we have, how's Tremont going? They've been doing a lot of work, looked like Phil on Tremont from the South Kitsap up. We didn't-
Right, they're just trying to get the paver in to get that base paving from South Kitsap up to, they got all the curbing completely up to the west throat of Pottery. And if you've been snooping around the Pottery roundabout, you'll see that it's really taking shape. So they'll be curbing that because they had to finish up a water main. So
There's a sewer force main too.
and then the sewer's done, the water. So I think we're really close to getting all the way from 16 to the east side of Pottery roundabout base paved. And then if we get that done, I think the dewatering and the 30-inch will be next year. Obviously, the final paving is next year. You'll see a shift then to that area from South Kitsap to Port Orchard Boulevard as being the next focus area.
Which will have traffic impacts again.
Yeah, that'll have some traffic impacts.
Well, the only reason I asked, I remember there's been a lot of discussion about whether we get the base paving in before the season ended, and that's why I was just kind of curious, but they were doing a lot of moving of dirt and stuff.
Well, the good news is October 1st is the WashDOT termination for final paving. It's October 1st through March 31st. But the base paving, it'll be weather dependent. So we're not going to have a restriction. If we hit a good weather stretch.
Yeah, I thought we did, that's why I was
Yeah,
asking.
no, it's the final 2-inch.
Okay.
So we'll be able, if we hit decent weather, we're anticipating, I think the forecast right now was weather like this, and we have a very short rain, and then it's supposed to get nice again. So, we're going to try to hit that and get as much done as possible.
Thank you.
You're seeing some, the red concrete.
That was poured, yeah.
That was poured, that's got a brick treatment to it.
Looks nice.
So sidewalks we're forming up sidewalks, and it's progressing nicely. Mr. Bond?
Yeah, so I guess I want to report on a conference that I attended as well. At the same time as the mayor, I went to the annual Planning Directors Conference, and this year was the best set of speakers that I've ever seen at that that conference. One of the first presentations was the Secretary of Transportation, had a really interesting presentation about the financial state of WashDOT, and I'm waiting for the PowerPoint presentation to be distributed to the group, but I think the big takeaway is that a huge percentage of WashDOT's budget today is going to debt, and in 10 years, it's going to be almost double the percentage that it is today. And so our ability to seek funding from WashDOT is going to be diminishing year over year without systemic changes at WashDOT and the way that we fund transportation. And so that was a really alarming thing to sit through. But the really positive presentation that I sat through, there's a presenter named Joe Minicozy. He's a Harvard economist out of Asheville, North Carolina, but he was talking about what he calls the cash flow of urbanism, and really looking at tax revenue generation related to land use patterns. And he's got several presentations online, and he's done a TED Talk. I'm going to send out a link to the council at some point, and I think talking about it at a committee level would be good, but it was a really brilliant way to look at the efficiency of land use. And we typically look at our properties in the city is that particular business is a big revenue generator. And what he's telling people to do is you need to look at cash flow per acre of land use, because the more cash flow per acre that you can generate means there's less infrastructure supporting that revenue generation. And so it really complements, I think I've shared with you previously, the organization Strong Towns. There's a gentleman named Charles Marone, and he talks about sort of the liability side of a city and how inefficient cities are when it comes to accepting liabilities that they have to pay for at a later date. This guy's really working the revenue side of things and saying, as land use planners and finance directors and public works directors, we really need to look at what type of development we're allowing and what that's going to mean to the city's bottom line 8, 10, 20 years from now. And so I think there's a lot of things we can take away from that, and I'd like to share more with you here. But I'll definitely send out a link to a presentation that you guys can watch if you'd like.
He sent me the video. It's a planner thing. I did. It was interesting.
I'd like to make a comment about the transportation funding at the Peninsula Regional Transportation Planning Organization, at which I represent the city of Port Orchard. We had an abbreviated presentation that Nick had seen. And the comment that was made is because so much of the gas tax revenue goes to debt service, and and they haven't issued all the bonds yet for Connecting Washington. So that piece of the pie just gets bigger. And one of the concerns that has been created is through the nickel package, and particularly the Connecting Washington, and I will throw our Tremont project in there, is those transportation packages were project specific. Port Orchard's takeout of Connecting Washington is the Bay Street pedestrian path. There was money locally for 305 in the north end, and Mason County got for their Belfair bypass. But they're all project specific, and it doesn't allow the state to do a program. This is how we can correct all the state highways over time, or prioritize that, because the money that they would normally use for that is going to project specific. So it was kind of an interesting way, and I was sitting there thinking, well, we've done that. And we were successful at it. But I think that may change in the future.
Sharon, do you have anything for us?
I just wanted to mention that we are starting into the labor negotiation season. Next Tuesday is our first negotiation session with the Port Orchard Police Guild, and although we don't have anything on the calendar yet, we expect to be starting negotiations with Teamsters soon as well. So I just wanted to put that on your radar, that we'll be coming to you for your input relatively soon. That's all I have.
All right, Brandy?
Yes, just wanted to report that we have the invoice from Kitsap Harbor Tours for the foot ferry services that was provided this summer. So I'm going to take the analysis, put it into a spreadsheet, and provide it to the Economic Development Committee And I'm happy and relieved to report that we are under budget. So we'll bring that back. And then I will be out of town the first part of next week to attend Association of Washington Cities risk management training. So I'm glad to get some risk management training to help benefit the public in the city. And that's all I have.
And our bag ban survey is still ongoing. We've had about 180, slightly more than 180 people respond. So, continuing to collect information. So with that, we are to our second citizen comment period. We have 2 holdouts. Come on up.
Since you mentioned the recycle bags, disappearing or that, one of the things that I noticed even in the Bremerton presentation that was on Facebook yesterday is that there's this 5 cents for the bags, and I just don't understand why we're having to pay that when the corporations are making the largest amount of money that they've made, over time. Yet here the citizen is being asked to pay for bags that they're providing right now without charging us. I just don't see why that was put in. When things get started, maybe these incentives are put in, but then they just keep continuing and continuing. And I honestly do not see why here's something they're providing, and now because they're not going to provide plastic bags, which cut down on their costs, we're now expected to pay for the paper bags, and it's just part of their business. I don't have the right terminology, but they've been doing it, and so now we're supposed to step up and pay for that part of their business when their products are continually. I've just been noticing going to stores, you can get something for $2 and $3 cheaper in different stores. They've got a markup, they decide what they can put on it, and we're paying for those bags and all of those markups in all the stores that we go to. So I just want you to think about that. When I watch what's being said on a lot of the internet type things, it's just another thing people are saying we don't want it because of, here again, it's another charge on the citizen. It seems like everything comes back to the citizen to cover things for corporations that are making huge, enormous amounts of money at this point in time. Thank you.
I think if you read the article in the Kitsap Sun, Councilmember Younger spoke to that very issue, that he felt that it should be market driven, and I think that's what Jerry was trying to say. So.
I agree.
Thank you. Showers, you're the last one here. Got anything for us?
I just kind of wanted to stay and hear everything.
Okay, well, thanks for staying to the bitter end. All right, with that, our meeting is adjourned.
So Mark